You are tuned in to the Foxcast podcast, the one and only podcast devoted strictly to Ford-powered Fox bodies. You are tuned in to the Foxcast podcast, the one and only podcast devoted strictly to Ford-powered Fox bodies. On the show today, we've got a very special guest. Name is Sharad Raldaris, and he comes to us via UPR Products and several other venues, including Mustang Magazine and so on and so forth. But very happy to have him on the show. Sharad, what's going on?
Oh, just getting things started for the Sunday morning. It's Mother's Day today, so doing a little bit of family things this weekend, but never too far from doing Mustang work. Actually, was checking out some customer emails and things this morning, which is a typical day for me. Just getting everybody taken care of.
Right. Yeah, you're never out of it. But happy Mother's Day to all the moms and. So Sharad, if people don't know you, which you'd almost have to be living under a rock in the Mustang community to not know who you are, just give us a quick bio on you.
All right. Well, when I was 9, getting ready to turn 10, my dad bought his first 5.0. He bought an 86 5.0. And I remember going to the dealership with him that first day to pick it up. And it was like, 86 was the first year of the third brake light. So as a kid, seeing the third brake light, we thought it was like an afterburner, this Fox body Mustang, with this brake light in the middle. And it was just like the coolest thing ever, when you're that age. But I guess the reason why I bring that up is because these were my formative years. I mean, back then, there wasn't the big aftermarket that we have now. So we would go to Georgia Speed Shop, and he, was a Ford Motorsport, I think it was called at the time, dealer. So every year the catalog would come out, and it's like, if you had a Fox body in the 80s, the entire section of the Fox Mustang in the catalog was like one page. There were no parts. So every year we would just be waiting for the catalog to come out. And, oh no, there's pulleys. Now you can get a set of pulleys for the car. And that was a big deal, So anyway, the way I grew up and got into this stuff is, I'm 10, 11, 12 years old, handing my dad wrenches, underneath the car, just trying to learn everything I can working on these cars back then in the 80s. And I didn't really expect it to become a career. I went to school for engineering. I thought that I was going to be some kind of a car designer or something like that. And, to be honest with you, I didn't plan the direction that I was going in all this. It was really a combination of right place at the right time and that sort of thing. But, my first car when I was 16 was a Fox. It was a 4-cylinder because my dad didn't want me to kill myself in some kind of race car or whatever. So I drove that for a year. I got a funny story for you, actually. Let me share this with your followers here. I had a 4-cylinder Mustang my junior year, I think it was. And I was back home where I grew up. There was this road that went from 2 lanes to 1. And I pulled up to a red light, and I'm in the left lane, and this van's in the right lane. A van, okay, a minivan in the right lane. Probably some Pro Mod V6 van, at least that's how I'm going to justify it. Anyway, the light goes green, and we both go for the lane, and I just hammer down, and I'm just giving it everything I've got in my little 2.3-liter Mustang. Anyway, this van beat me to the lane.
Oh, God.
And I was devastated. I was devastated, totally humiliated. And came home, told my dad, I think this was my senior year at the time that happened. I had been driving that car for a year. And as much as he didn't want me to hurt myself in a fast car, he said, it's time.
Yeah.
So I put the 4-cylinder up for sale. I'm working at McDonald's at the time, right? $4.25 an hour. I mean, every penny I made went into my car. And he's like, all right, we'll go find a 5.0. So sure enough, got a good deal on one, and I bought my first 5.0 when I was 17, and haven't looked back. I mean, I've been doing it nonstop since then.
That's crazy. I remember, back in my early teens, and, I had a 72 Galaxy, cast iron 2-barrel, 351 Windsor, couldn't beat its way out of a wet paper bag. So. But I swore it was, it was the coolest thing in the world.
Yep.
So later on in your career, you you were at 5.0 for a while.
Yeah, and it's funny how that happened. Remember I said that I didn't necessarily plan the way my career was going to go. It was just a series of things happening in a certain way. I was in Kentucky at the time. I'm going to say this is around 97 or something like that. And, I'm sorry, 07. Yeah, around there. And I had been kind of missing the Fox body thing. I had a series of new edges, had a 99, a 2000, and I like those cars. But I came up with the Fox bodies, and I had been married for a few years. Money was going okay, and I was talking to my wife about it. And she said, "Well, why don't you find a nice, clean, Fox body that you can kind of fix it up and make it nice and make it your baby, And I found one out of Cincinnati that it was original owner, 89 LX, 5.0 5-speed, 42,000 miles on it when I bought it.
Unreal.
And it was almost completely stock. And it had like a 373 and whatever. So anyway, I bought that. So here I am. I got this thing in my garage, and it's immaculate, all stock. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm at a crossroads, right? I can either act like an old man and I can just polish this thing up and put a car cover on it, right? Or I can just tear into this virgin, Fox body and just go ridiculous with it. Well, I got to tell you, not to be too serious, but something happened at the time that was really kind of like a formative deal for me, is that my wife had some health issues at the time. And thank God, she's better now. But for a while there, it was kind of scary. Like, we were worried about whether or not she was going to make it through, type of thing.
Oh, wow. And,
I'm kind of relatively young, got 2 kids, and I'm dealing with all of these things emotionally. And I'm like, here's what I do know. Nobody is guaranteed tomorrow. Okay. And I don't act like an idiot, but what I'm saying is I decided right then I'm going to live my life so that if I were to die right now, I wouldn't regret, what I did before. I mean, I'm going to try to enjoy it, maximize every moment that I can. Right.
Sure.
Well, how this affects our conversation is that I'm looking at this, Virgin LX 5.0 in the garage, and I'm hearing my friends, and acquaintances tell me, don't mod it, don't mod it, don't mod it. Those things are so rare, you never find them anymore. And I'm thinking, forget all that nonsense. It's a Mustang. It's not a Boss 429 or whatever. It's a Fox body. So I started by emailing Steve Turner. And I said, hey, Steve. And I didn't know him at the time. I knew of him from the magazine, but it's
sure.
like friends. And I'm like, listen, man, I got this really pretty Fox body. And I think I'm going to just tear it apart and make it a very fast street car. Got any interest in that kind of thing? And Steve's really cool. I mean, I'm so glad that he's got his deal over at SVT, because that he was born to do this, to be the editor in chief. So anyway, he was like, yeah, he's not knowing me at all, if I can write, if I can take photos or anything like that, but he liked the pictures that I sent him in the car and the ideas that I had. So he's like, yeah, it's like, why don't you write an article, send it to me, and if I like what I see, then we'll make it a project. I mean, we'll make it an actual, long-term project. And I'm like, cool. That's all you had to tell me. So all I did is just some basic bolt-ons, some 275, 50, 15 drag rails. I mean, nothing. They were BF groups. They weren't even, it wasn't some crazy deal. I was daily driving the car at the time. So yeah, I just did a couple little mods like that, completely stock motor. And I mean, from the throttle body to oil pan, that car made no power. It stopped. And I went 1291 at 103, I think. My goal for the first article is I said I want to run 12s on the stock motor. And I did it. It was like a 169 60 foot. So yeah, took all the pictures. And I had some like little cheap point and shoot kind of camera. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm just working, my computer in my home, because I had a full-time job during the day. And sent him everything. And he liked it. He's like, yeah, let's do it. And you got to understand that it was a little bit psychotic at the time, because I told him, I laid out the project from the beginning. Mm-hmm. I said, I want to build the car like a super street outlaw, like an MRA outlaw car, but I want to make it drivable on the street. And he's like, okay, you're going to take a 42,000 mile all stock Fox body and do that. And I'm like, Yeah, that sounds like exactly what I want to do. So yeah, I mean, as soon as he saw the pictures, that article ran, I think somewhere around '08, I
Yeah.
believe, and it was actually well received. You know what? I remember getting an email from Steve in the beginning, and he was like, "Yeah, we're starting to get the hate mail from your article," and I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, people are freaking out about you taking a low mileage Fox and modifying it like that." Well, I'm terrified. I'm looking at this as like this huge opportunity with the magazine.
Right.
Then when my boss at the magazine tells me that he's getting hate mail about it, I'm thinking it's over. This dream that I had about having this long-term project car is over. He's like, no, no, no. He said, that's how you know you're doing something right. He said, people that complain, they're a lot more, they reach out a lot more than the people that give you the thumbs up and all that. He's like, if they like the project, they just keep reading. They keep getting the next month's issue and see what's going on. But he's like, yeah, you're doing something right because it brought a strong reaction out of people. Right. So that was it. After that, we went crazy. So that's how I got started with the magazine. And I did some other little tech stuff and some feature articles also. And I enjoyed that. I mean, honestly, I would have kept doing that if the magazines had stayed around. And in some ways, what I'm doing now for UPR, being the marketing manager, the majority of what I do is social media, and the magazine work really prepared me for that. I mean, like I said, I went to school for engineering. I didn't go to school for writing or marketing or anything like that. But I guess when I look back on it, the magazine set me up for the job that I have now, which has been great.
And that article, I think it's Stalker to Shocker.
Yeah, Project Shocker, yeah.
Yeah. It is still up on Mustang 360 in the archives. I read it last week, got the car in the 12s. I mean, the car is freaking immaculate. So if any of you guys get on Mustang 360, stop by there and read the article. It's cool story, awesome car. Definitely a good read. So as that, we're going to get off on a tangent on the car because if anybody hadn't saw what the car ended up being, they need to know. So after we hit 1291, you kind of just like went haywire with it. Yeah,
I generally don't do anything halfway, right? And I told him from the beginning. I need to mention this. I developed a friendship with Chris Beningo back in, this is like 2002. I was building a real street car for him, and he helped me out. And the man is just a genius when it comes to building race cars. I mean, he really is. And one of the things that he taught me a long time ago is incorporate the best technology. Build the car overkill. I mean, just go crazy with it, because that way, if you're not, just absolute beating on it or whatever, you have a really good expectation that the thing's going to live. Okay, so I wanted to build it like a true street car, something that could go out and win true street. And then my idea behind the build was to build, like I said earlier, a street outlaw car that has, a radiator, a good tranny cooler, and all of the things that you need that you can actually do your 30-mile tour without worrying about the car melting down. But I mean, we're talking a 427 small block with a Pro Charger F1R. I mean, 50 millimeter cog drive. I mean, the thing was sick. I mean, back then, this is absolutely what you would see racing outlaw. And I had it in my street car. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. When the car was still stock motor, stock trans, stock rear end, because I knew I was headed that way, I told Steve, I said, hey, listen, I think I want to put a cog drive F1R on the shocker. But, it's going to take a little while to build the motor. So why don't we put the F1R on the stock motor? I mean, the F1Rs are like this big, And I'm like, why don't we put the F1R on the stock motor and see if we can run 10s with it? And this is, it's funny. Sometimes you read these articles and there's stuff that goes on behind the scenes that you don't hear a lot about. So I'll let you in on a little secret is that I took it to a track rental. The car had an Anderson PMS for tuning, a little bit of fuel. It had an air motive fuel system, and I was running about 13 pounds of boost. I mean, 13, 14 pounds is what I would get on the stock motor with how I had it pulling. And I took it to a track rental in December at Bowling Green, and there was no prep. There were probably only like 8 of us running the cars that day. It was a high of 40 degrees.
Oh, God.
And overcast. So there wasn't even any heat in the track, right? So I'm like, all right, here's the deal. The thing's not going to 60 foot. I mean, it's just not going to happen that I can get this thing out of the hole because it's, like I said, cold, no prep, no heat, no nothing. So I gotta run this thing out the back and try to get this 10-second pass. And I made like 8 passes that day trying to get my 10-second pass. Probably about 2 or 3 passes into it, it started pushing coolant. And I knew, we're, stock head gaskets, everything's stock. It's a 20-something-year-old motor, and I'm just cramming the boost through it. And here's how I looked at it. I had already started building the 427, right? And I'm like, worst case scenario, the motor blows up. I like run over the crankshaft going through the cracks, And, we drag it onto the trailer, take it home, and put the Windsor in it, right? So I just kept driving it. Every time it pushed coolant into the overflow, I just drained it out. And made another pass. I'm like, it's 40 degrees. It's not going to overheat.
Exactly.
And I don't care if I hurt the motor. So I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. Finally, that day, the best 60 I could get was like 170 or something like that because, like I said, stick car, drag rails, cold. It was not going to hook that day. So it went 1136 at 122. That was on the stock motor. Like I said, stock motor, stock trans, stock rear end with the 373. So, fell short of my mark. But you know what? Looking back on it, that was probably the most fun time that I had with the car. Because it was, you could go to a junkyard and get a 302 for $300. It's like, who cares if you break the motor, you break the trans? The parts just fall out of trees. You can find them anywhere, Man, I used to have fun with that car. I one night, 10, 11 o'clock at night, I'm in bed, I'm married and kids and everything, but I had younger friends that were in the car seat. And I get a call from a good friend of mine, Aaron, and he was like, hey, listen, man, you need to bring the car out to the spot. I'm like, bro, it's like 10 or 11 o'clock, man. I'm in bed. And he's like, listen, there's a guy up here with a Terminator. And he says there's nothing in town that can beat him. You need to bring your car up here. I'm like, all right. I don't know anything about the guy, but yeah, fine. I'll bring my, stock motor Fox body up there to race him. So I sneak out. I say sneak out. If you've ever been around an F1R cog drive, the open race blow-off valve, it sounds literally like a jet taking off. Mm-hmm. So here's this guy from some other town that nobody knows. He's got his Terminator parked over here. I roll into the Walmart parking lot in Kentucky. It's, middle of the night. It's dead silent out here in the country. And it just, like I said, 747 taxiing down the road. I pull in and the guy kind of looks at me like this, But he was still pretty confident. The guy swore he has like 700 horsepower or whatever, blah, 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 Kenny Bell. And I'm like, well, you know what? It better hook and you better drive it because you're about to get spanked by 400 horsepower, right? Long story short, we ran a couple times and I just absolutely put it to the guy. Actually, the video I think is still on my photo book or something. But anyway, yeah, I just raced this guy and told him, I was like, don't worry about that blower. It's a stock motor. It doesn't make any power. But I got him. That was a good time. I enjoyed the car though.
Yeah, it's funny. I hear the stories all the time of people saying, they start going fast, and then, of course, you got to go faster, and then they go back and they think about when it was a bolt-on car with a 100-shot or, a small Vortec, and they're like, that's when the car was fun.
Yeah.
And I hear it all the time. And, I've even had friends go back, take the big stroker out and the solid roller cam and just screw it. I had fun going, 1250s with the car. So it's funny. And, the only remedy I found for that is you got to have 2.
That's true.
Fast and slow.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. I think it's a combination of things. Part of it's nostalgia. Part of it's like we look back. Some friend of mine just got together on Facebook the other day, and we were in some thread and we were talking about street racing back in the 90s, And back then, yeah, we were all like, 12-second cars or whatever. We thought they were fast. And we had a good time. And that was just nostalgia talking. But I will say this. I think Steve Turner, honestly, I don't think that he gets as much credit as he deserves. The guy is just like a wealth of knowledge and also wisdom when it comes to the market. And one thing that he taught me, and this is going back 8 years or so, he said, one thing that I've learned is the most stock that I can keep the car and still enjoy it, the better it is. Mm-hmm. Now, bear with me. I'm not condoning having a stock car. You know, not anything, okay? But my point is, at the time, his GT500 had a blower on it, exhaust, fuel, wheels and tires, you know what I mean? But the car made like 700 horsepower or something. Shelby's had good brakes and everything for the factory. So it was a pretty good combo. But it still had the stock motor, stock trans, stock rear end. So it was perfect drivability. And, it was an excellent all-around car. So I took that from him, to mean, yeah, it's like that. Like my 2011 that I built later, that car, when it had the stock motor, trans, and rear end, but I had a Pro Charger on it and a tune and everything, it went tens. I could go from drag racing to open track, and it would do everything well without giving me a headache.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. Honestly, sometimes I think that if you can not go crazy on the car, you'll enjoy it more than if it's some tube chassis, stroker, solid roller, you have to go through a procedure to even get the thing to start type of car. Right. That's definitely a lesson learned.
Yeah. If it's trying to drive something like that, on the street on a regular basis or, even on a limited basis, eventually ends up becoming basically a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But not to say it's not fun when you get to the track, but so again, just have two cars and call it good. So, moving on, what's going on at UPR?
All right, let's see. UPR. I am going to say, give you a little bit of insider information here. I started out as a dealer for UPR back in 2002, and that's really when my association got set up with them. But when I moved to Florida in 2010, that's when I started working directly with them. And I gotta say, my job, you know what it is? It's really like, you got to be a cheerleader. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, okay, we're hiring you to be a cheerleader for UPR. And that sounds strange, but you know what? In this era, that's what marketing really is. It's kind of like, basically being able to have your image sort of influenced or affected by what you do on social media and what your racers do or whatever. It's how you present your company, okay?
Right.
We didn't have a strong internet presence in 2010. And then what happened, and not to be negative, but the thing about the internet is we've had racers win championships every year since we've been in business, which is going on 20 years. Okay. Sure. I don't care how you look at it. You don't win championships on accident. No. Okay. You have to make a good product to win races. But there was this sort of steady stream of naysayers, against UPR, and they vibe off of each other. You get one guy that gets in like Yellow Bullet, and I'm not taking anything away from Yellow Bullet. That place is a juggernaut of social media. But what I mean is you get one person going about, well, UPR is made in China. Then next thing you know, you get 20, 30 people. Oh, yeah, it's junk. It's made in China. Like, our stuff in China. That's not, completely false, some of the stuff that you would see. But there was nobody at UPR to address that. Right. Okay. So they hired me to be the guy to really go in there and represent the company. But here's what happens. I learned over the years that me saying UPR is great, UPR is made in America, UPR wins races, it doesn't carry as much weight as if David Pearson is out there with a stock, bodied Fox body Mustang, stock wheelbase, small block Ford, Pro Charger, and he's going, 410 to the eighth on 275s, 101 60-foot time on UPR suspension. When Little Evil says, I'm running UPR suspension, my job's done. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to try to convince you that UPR is so good. I got this guy out there doing it. Mm-hmm. So, if you're asking me what's going on with UPR, what I would say is I feel like in the past few years, we've solidified our team, our racers that are out there racing and winning. But it's not that. It's we've banded together almost as a family, I feel like, online, in social media. And people are starting to realize that this deal is for real. It's the parts work. It's quality stuff. We're winning races. We're setting records. And it's been good. I have to tell you, our sales right now, are at an all-time high. And I couldn't always say that. There was this sort of like a prime time, I want to say it was, late 90s, early 2000s, where everybody was just spending money like it was going out of style. And a lot of companies were looking back at that as like the glory days.
Yeah.
And then, now things are tight. Well, it's not like that. I mean, I'm telling you right now, the sales are all-time high, and I attribute it to our racers. I mean, I'm not gonna take credit for that. I'm saying our racers came together as a family. Somebody comes up to them, hey, how do I make my car work or whatever? Oh, okay, I'm using UPR Pro Series suspension, and I'm getting these kind of 60-foot times, and then everybody helps everybody out, and then we all grow stronger as a result of it. So that's been it. I mean, the company is doing really, really well, I say, because of that. And the only other thing to add is we're diversifying a little bit. I mean, I don't know if you've seen much of this, but we've gotten into Ford licensed emblems.
Cool.
Just things like the 5.0 emblems or the ponies and GT on the front and back and things like that. I mean, you got to think there are a lot of people that are going to be more inclined to do that type of stuff than they are to pull the suspension out of their car and bolt it in. They don't even know how, that type of thing. It's really simple, but it's like fear of the unknown. So a lot of emblem stuff, catch cans are really a hot thing. So, I mean, it's funny because when I believe that when people think UPR, they think Pro Series suspension, they think, Chris Little or, something like that. And if you look at our sales, a lot of it right now, I'm going to say as much of our sales are catch cans, emblems, accessories, as they are the suspension, which I think might surprise people because we're really kind of known for the suspension.
Right. And it's cool that you have those, those little accessories that you can spend, $50 to $100 on and, fix up your car a little bit, even if you don't have, $500 to $1,000 to spend. I remember, I think it was World Ford Challenge 2000 was the first time I think you guys had a trailer there.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. Because Willie Figueroa ran the Wild Street car in 99, 2000, and 01 and won Wild Street there.
Right.
But anyway, go ahead, yeah.
And you guys had all the, well, I say all, there was a few of the, like the billet interior pieces and stuff, and like that was groundbreaking back then. There was nothing like it. The AC knobs and the wiper deletes and, so, that's what, 16 years ago?
There's a funny story behind that. Mark Monero, the way he tells it is, well, we go to these shows all over the country and you got racers buying suspension, but they've got their wives there or they've got, kids there and they want to buy something. They don't, so they see this billet stuff or car show stuff and they're interested in getting that. He tells it that way. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I mean, there are, people that are really into billet accessories and things like that. But I will say this, when we go to like a, let's say, Yellow Bullet race or the Duck X, lights out, no mercy races, you'd be surprised. You would think that we would roll that semi in there and we'd be selling K members. And we do, but I'm going to say more often than not, it's what you said. People will drop $100 on some accessory or, some kind of smaller part a lot quicker or more often than they do buy the complete, $1,500 front and rear suspension setup. So, it makes us more diverse, as a retailer. So it's a good move. That's all Joe Monero. I got to say this. My boss, Joe Monero, I mean, technically he's the president of the company when you're incorporated, I guess is what you call it. He's the idea guy behind UPR, and he's sharp. I mean, honestly, I think that people probably don't realize the business sense that Joe Monero has. Like I said, for a lot of us that work at the shop, to us, it's like, oh, look at the Hellion B team. Last year won Renegade and run Coyote Modified with Frank Varela and Haley James. Like, suspension, yeah. And Joe's over here talking about, hey, listen, these catch cans, these new cars really need catch cans, and they really make a difference on the cars. So the more we make these, the more we take care of people, and they're a popular part. And I'll be honest with you. Sometimes within the company, we'll look at Joe like, are you serious? Like, UPR is the choice of champions. This is what you're excited about is catch cans. But hey, listen, man, the guy's sharp. And I mean, it works. You know what I mean? I mean, the customers see the need for things like catch cans, and they're buying them faster than they're buying the suspension. So, you make what sells. I mean, that's just smart business. But we're passionate about racing. That's where we came from, and that's where we'll always be.
Right. And UPR really has solidified itself as, the industry leader. I mean, you don't go to any race, whether it's NMRA, lights out, no prep, anything, and the fastest cars are running UPR. I mean, it's, not as a shameless promo, but it's just fact. You look on the car, there's a UPR sticker on the hood or on the window. It's just there, and I think a lot of that is can be attributed to, you and what you do. Just reaching out and, building that Team UPR family and making cars go fast, helping cars go fast.
I want to touch on that for a minute. Maybe this is going to be a little bit controversial. I probably should have thought this through before I said this on a recording. But there's a thread going right now on Facebook where some guy, I think it's on Turbo Bullet, some guy was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about using this part from UPR. Or should I? What brand do you guys use?" And it's like, give me a break, man. I mean, you can't. It's the internet. You're going to have some guy say, "I bought a part from J.C. Whitney catalog, and it's the best part ever," because you know what I mean. Like, okay, you ask him, like, "Have you tried the different parts? Did you A/B compare them?" I mean, no, of course you didn't. You're just saying, "I've got this part and I love it." Of course you're going to say that. And the truth, the sort of unspoken truth behind aftermarket suspension is that, oh gosh, I hope I don't get fired for saying this. If you stick with a quality component, racecraft, Wolf, whatever, if you stick with something that's, made well, you can go fast.
Sure.
Okay. I mean, yes, we win championships year after year after year. We set records left and right. And I'm so proud of my racers for that. But I have to give the racers credit. These guys are sharp, man. They go out there and they test and test and test, and they make these cars work, and they run these numbers. And basically, all my parts are doing is holding up to the torture that they're putting. You know what I mean? But it's not that, if you took my control arm versus, like I said, Racecraft or TOZ or whatever, if you put them next to each other and, took one off and then made the next pass with the other one or whatever, chances are, the car is going to run about the same. I mean, it's not that the advantage is that. I feel like what we are offering our customers is support. Okay. We're at the track. We're at all the, the NMRA races, all the duck races. Like I said, I mean, we have 15 to 20 events a year that we bring our 18-wheeler to, and we support the racers. And I'm going to tell you something, and this is all Mark Monero right here. If a racer comes that's not even running our parts, and this is the truth, I've seen this happen time and time again. If they break something and we have a part on the trailer that will fix them and get their car back in the running for the next round, I have seen Mark take a part off of our trailer and give it to the racer to make them be able to make the next round, and they're not even our guy. They're not running a UPR sticker. They didn't buy it. But because he's passionate about racing, and we all are, we do whatever it takes to support the racers. And that's why I think that UPR has really grown in popularity, because they see that we have the passion for the racing and the support for the people that are out there doing that.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. If you're at the track, because I know how many events you guys go to a year, and I can only imagine what your expenses are to get there. But the support and the camaraderie that you guys have developed, that's great. You didn't invent the control arm, just like McDonald's didn't invent the hamburger, but you're doing it, you're doing it right, and you've got that backing behind it that a lot of those guys really like and appreciate. So, hats off to you guys for that.
Thank you.
But, so anyway, without keeping you too long, I got one more question. We've got 60,000 plus people, in the organization right now. And a lot of the guys are, kind of green to this. They know how to bolt on a little power, whether it's a nitrous kit or, some heads. And then they go to the track thinking that they're going to run really fast, and half the time they go slower, because they're spinning, they're wheel hopping, they're whatever. real quick, kind of on a budget, what would you, what kind of advice would you give a guy who's not an expert, who's not, a seasoned drag racer, just kind of wants to go a little bit faster?
I'm glad you asked me that because I've noticed lately that there is a new wave of Mustang enthusiasts, and I'm talking Fox body.
Right.
Okay? You know that I run our social media, so I'm interacting with these people all the time. And a year or two ago, I remember somebody telling me it might have been Instagram, oh, yeah, the old Mustangs. I like the old Mustangs. And I was like, old? Fox body? Like, it's a Fox. Old Mustangs are 60. What are you talking
Exactly.
about? Old Mustang in 93. Well, anyway, there is a new generation that didn't see the development of the market for those cars and really don't know. So if I had to talk to one of those people, I would try to simplify it as much as possible and say something like this. Here's the deal about drag racing. Generally speaking, a tenth of a second improvement in the 60-foot is about 2/10 improvement out the back. Okay? So you can put your blower on there, you can put your nitrous on there, and you can make all kinds of power. But let's say you take a bone stock 5.0, and let's say your best 60-foot time is a 2.2. Okay? Look at what I did with my 89 LX when it was all stock. Just by running a 169 60-foot, and I'm going to tell you something, I don't think I mentioned this in the article. I dynoed the car later. It made, I believe it was 236 horsepower to the tire with the tune and the exhaust and everything, but the motor was stock, and 303 foot-pounds of torque. That thing was a dog. It wouldn't fall out of a tree. I mean, it was slow. But I went a 169 60-foot time, and think about it. If you were at a 2.2 all stock, and then you drop down to a 1.7, you just dropped half a second off your 60, that's a second out the back. That's how you run a 12-second ET with a stock motor. So same thing carries over to this person that's got this stock Mustang that they want to run quick. I tell them, make the car hook. You know what I mean? It's going to cost you $5,000 or whatever for a blower, $1,500 for nitrous by the time you get all the accessories. And it's going to back half great, but if you can't get off the line, you're not going to get the numbers. So invest in the suspension, even though it's not exciting, it's not sexy. You don't pull into the spot and they hear your Pro Series suspension. Obviously, it's not going to happen. But, do a K-member kit. That whole deal is saving you about 70 pounds off the front end and helps transfer weight. Do the upper and lower control arms in the back. They're going to keep the car from hopping. They're going to let the thing actually plant. These things, they can be done in your garage on jack stands with hand tools. One day, if you're not comfortable with the work, guarantee you, if you're into Mustangs, you have a friend that's done control arms before, that's done a K-member before. Get together, have a mod party. I mean, that's how we did it back in the day, and they still do it today. So, it could be done in an afternoon, very simple work. Install all that. Of course, today you got to be worried about your torque boxes. I mean, these cars have years on them. So
right.
I'm telling them, when you take the control arms off, look and make sure that it's not pulled apart. If you buy our torque box reinforcements, you can bolt them in or you can weld them in. But either way, you got to make sure that your foundation is ready for your upgraded upper and lower control arms. Shocks, struts, it's bolt in, simple stuff. Caster camber plates, got to have them for the coilovers. I mean, if they call us at the shop or even reach out to us on social media, I got to say this, not only do our best to help them, whether they call or whether they reach out to us on the social media, but because we have such a good family of racers, guarantee you, if you have a tech question about a suspension install, if you post that online, if it's Facebook or Instagram or whatever, sometimes I'll have a racer out there that will respond and answer your question before I even get there. That's my job. That's my job. But that's part of being the UPR family. I'm saying upgrade the suspension. The car will be quicker. If you have any questions, we're there to support you. And if you have that question, you might get the question answered before I even get there because of our family.
Yep. And if you've never felt this feeling, when you go with a stock car that hooks up and works and goes fast and nobody can believe it because you're beating HCI cars, that's where it really, that's where you really get people scratching their heads.
Yeah, doing more with less. That's exciting, definitely.
Exactly, and these cars will, they truly will. And when you do decide to add more power, regardless of how you make it, you're actually going to be able to use that power. I mean, that's huge. Just make the car work. So. Yeah. But Sharad, I have kept you way too long, brother. Really appreciate you coming on the show and, talking Fox bodies and suspensions and history and all that. Truthfully, I could do it all day.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to get together with you, and we'll have to do it again sometime. I definitely enjoy it, and we'll keep these Fox bodies alive, man. I mean, I tell you, I believe they're as popular as ever, and it's a whole new generation discovering these cars. So hopefully they'll take them into the next era with the Fox bodies.
That's what we're trying to do over here. But if anybody wants to get in touch with you, you're pretty much behind all of UPR's Facebook, Instagram. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they can send a message on Facebook or just post on our Facebook. Instagram has really kind of taken off, so I mean they can tag us or DM that way. But yeah, on social media, you can definitely get a hold of me directly there, and I'll always go out of my way to help out in any way that I can if somebody needs tech advice or even just help choosing a particular part.
Awesome, that's sweet. Having that back support is invaluable. But Sharad, I appreciate it, and we will catch you next time.
All right, thanks, man. Take care. Enjoy your weekend.
You too. Thanks again for listening to the Foxcast podcast. We are everywhere. Stop by and check us out. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and our website, thefoxcast.com, and we will talk to you next time on the Foxcast podcast.